attending circles of knowledge are also the best ibadat. So, um, studying history is not one of those sort of traditional Islamic things like fiqh and aqidah that you normally would study, but that's what I was explaining in the first class that, the Quran is full of history. The Quran tells us, a lot of the Quran is telling us about things that happened in the past. So that's why it's important to study history to understand the Sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And also as an ummah, as a people, as a community, we must understand who we are, we can't understand who we are unless we know where we've come from, where we come to this position today. There's a big history behind that. So that's the intention, inshallah, is for the sake of knowledge, to understand, and to be a self-awareness of ourselves as an ummah, as a community, as an ummah of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So inshallah today we're going to move on to talking about the Khilafah of Sayyidina Uthman and Sayyidina Ali. Before I go into that, I just want to mention this is the timeline that I've showed a few times slide. It's like a summary of the history. Um, as you can see, from the time of the Prophet ﷺ all the way up to our present time, it's a timeline. And what I've done here is in the green is the green is what is happening in the Muslim world, and in the red is what is happening in Europe and the Western world at the same time. And obviously down here you have some more details about Rashidun, Umayyad, Abbasids, Ottomans, Mughal, etc. World War One, World War Two. So some major events as well, and major dynasties are there, just to give us an anchor of the timeline. And here I've also put the corresponding how the Western classification, Middle Ages, early modern, and modern. So you can see in one graph a lot of information and a sort of a summary. And as you study history, everything you do can be added onto that general picture in your mind. So I've got a few copies of these in the box there. Anyone who wants one is welcome to take one, inshallah. And I do encourage you to stick it on your wall at home. Because one of the best ways to memorize something is actually to put it on your wall, either in your bedroom or even in your living room. Don't worry. Your mum might say, oh, no, 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 don't spoil my living room. But just say, Mum, it's more important to have knowledge. Yeah? And yeah, so inshallah, that will be a useful, helpful thing for people. So feel free, there's a boxes there. Feel free to help yourself, inshallah, afterwards, if anyone wants a copy. Now, when we talk about the Khilafah of Sayyidina Uthman and Ali, this is a great period of our history. It's the Rashidun period. Some events took place, in this time where we had some difference of opinion amongst Sahaba. So when we talk about these issues, we have to be very respectful, of the Sahaba, because especially as Sunnis, we believe all of the Sahaba to be of righteous. Just to be a Sahaba itself makes you of a special status in Islam. So the Prophet ﷺ, there's many hadith about his Sahaba. Don't speak ill of the Sahaba. And the Sahaba are like stars. You can guide yourself by any of them. So when we do cover this, we will just mention some of the differences that happened between some of the Sahaba, but just always bear in mind that we keep a good opinion of every side. Even when there's a difference between them, we keep a good opinion. So what that means is we believe that they were doing according to the best of their ijtihad and the best of their opinion. And it's like I was saying yesterday, it is human nature to have difference of opinion. All of our great imams, they always had difference of opinion about certain issues. Sahaba had some difference of opinion about certain issues. Um, and once the revelation, once the wahi has stopped, that's the beautiful thing about wahi. When we have a prophet, we don't need to have difference of opinion because we've got clear revelation, we've got haqq. But after that, there's absolutely no way you cannot have difference of opinion amongst people. Even something as simple as it says in the Quran, وَالْمُطَلَّقَاتُ يَتَرَبَّصْنَ بِأَنفُسِهِنَّ ثَلَاثَةَ قُرُوء, that the divorced women have to wait for 3 periods, 3 months in a way. قُرُوء, ثَلَاثَةَ قُرُوء. Yeah, the divorced women, they have to wait before they're allowed to marry anyone else or anything like that, etc. Um, Even amongst the leading Sahaba, there was a difference of opinion. What does it mean by quru? What's the meaning of quru? Is it the monthly bleeding or is it the period in between that? You know. So Sayyidina Omar had one opinion, Sayyidina Ali had a different opinion. So there's bound to be, it's a nature of language. Even in the Quran, the people are going to have different, and there's no correct. Not one is right or wrong. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever does the ijtihad, whoever does strive to find the truth, there is a reward for the one who got it right. There's a reward for the one who got it wrong, and 2 reward for the one who gets it right. So even if as long as you're sincere to try to find the truth of a matter, even if you get it wrong, Allah will reward you for your ijtihad, for your struggle, for your effort. As long as you're sincere. And this is the thing. So we always keep an opinion that all of the Sahaba, they were sincere, and even when they had some differences, even sometimes that came to fighting, they always had respect for one another as well. And they respected the difference of opinion. And some of the ulama said that was one of the wisdom why actually Sahaba did fight. One of the wisdom was to teach us and show us what's the adab when a group of believers come to a clash. What's the adab? Because there's a different adab of a conflict when you're fighting against another group of believers rather than disbelievers. Now, someone might think, but how can 2 group of believers actually fight each other? Surely that's forbidden, but we know that can happen because in Surah Al-Hujurat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has described that scenario. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah Al-Hujurat, when 2 group of believers fight one another, then you should try to make peace between them. And if you cannot make peace between them, go to the assistance of the side which is on the truth. So there is inevitably, as human beings, there will be times when even as believers, there will be some sort of a clash. And the Quran has mentioned that, when 2 groups of the believers, it's in Surah Al-Hujurat. So there's an adab, so when Sayyidina Ali, he fought against some other groups, for example, after he was victorious, he said, we don't take any booty and we don't take any slaves. All of them are free to go. So that was showing us that if a 2 group of believers fight, we have different rules to that conflict. You don't take booty from them. You don't take slaves if you're victorious. You free them afterwards. So there's things like that. There are other wisdoms as well. So first of all, this is a timeline, just a reminder where we are in the timeline. If you remember, we were talking about Sayyidina Umar. Before Umar passed away, radiallahu anhu, remember he was killed by a slave, Persian man, non-Muslim, in Medina. We don't know really exactly why this particular person had a grudge. There are different theories and things, but for whatever reason, this Persian slave, he jumped out and he stabbed Sayyidina Omar when he was just about to lead the prayer, and he had a poison in the spear. So Sayyidina Omar then, it was some time, a couple of days, but he passed away from that poison. And before he died, he set up this panel of 6 of the greatest and leading Sahaba that were still alive. And all of these 6 were from the 10 al-Mubashshara bil Jannah that were promised Jannah in the lifetime of the Prophet ﷺ, the 10 famous Sahaba. So all of these 6 were from those 10. And he said that, you must choose you must choose a Khalifa from these 6. And look at the beauty of it. He said, the only condition is you can't give it to my son. You can't give it to my son. Look at the beauty of that, because when we study history, we see throughout history people trying to cling on to power, fighting for power. When we study later on the Ottomans and the Mughal, you'll see some brothers fighting and killing each other. Children killing their own parents for power, to cling on to power. That's one of the big one of the big desire of the human being is to have power. Most of us we're just ordinary people. We don't experience that type of thing, but those people that do, like Bill Clinton, the former president of US, he wrote a autobiography, a very long and boring autobiography, which I, for some reason, decided to read. But one of the interesting things he did say in there was, he said, the narcotic of choice in Washington is power. The narcotic of choice in Washington is power. It's like a drug, It's intoxicating, that feeling of power. Imagine you're someone, wherever you go, there's 10, 20 people following you around. It's an intoxicating feeling. Everyone just doing your bidding. So this type of power is something that people will kill their own siblings. And this is why the Khulafa Rashidun are so special. Because this is one of the very rare times in history where you see that the leadership is in the hand of pious people. It doesn't happen very often in history that we see, leadership in the hand of these sort of caliber of pious people. That they were running away from this leadership. Honestly, they were running away. Sayyidina Umar used to weep every day because of the responsibility, the burden of it on him. He used to say, he used to weep sometimes and say, I fear maybe somewhere in the whole caliphate, maybe there's a dog who's thirsty for water. One dog somewhere that's thirsty for water, and I will be responsible. I'm the Khalifa. I'm in charge of this whole. So they were terrified of this responsibility. So unlike what, sometimes when you read the Western account of what happened, they put their own interpretation, their own intentions, like they were fighting over power. These people like Sayyidina Uthman, Sayyidina Ali, they were not fighting over this thing. They didn't want it. They were trying to run away from this. So Umar, he said before he died, one of you 6, you have to choose who's going to be the next Khalifa between you, but you cannot choose my son. Because his son, Abdullah ibn Umar, was a great man at that time, Abdullah ibn Umar, we know, he's a great Sahabi himself. He's one of the greatest teachers of the Sahaba. A lot of hadith and these things that we have go back to Abdullah ibn Umar. So even at that time, because don't forget, this is human nature. People were really fanatic. Umar had become a legend. He'd become by the time he died, he was a complete legend. And people were very attached to him. So naturally, they wanted his son. They would have wanted his son to be the next leader. But he said no. And he told his son to lock them in a room, the 6 people, and don't let them out until they've come to a decision. And they've got 3 days to come to a decision. So this is the amazing thing, and if you look at Abu Bakr as well, he gave it to Umar. Umar's not his son, he's not related, he's not his family, he's not even from his clan, Bani Taym. He's from a whole different kind of clan of Quraysh. So these people were not trying to cling on to power and keep it in their family and things like that, So the 6 people in the room was Sayyidina Ali, Sayyidina Uthman, Sayyidina Abdul Rahman ibn Auf, Talha ibn Ubaidillah. He's the one who had his hand chopped in the Battle of Uhud, protecting the Prophet ﷺ. When the Prophet ﷺ was being attacked, he put his arm in front of the Prophet ﷺ and he had his hand chopped off. Talha. And Zubayr ibn al-Awwam, who's like a cousin of the Prophet ﷺ. Is that 5? Abu Ubaidah is already passed away at that time. Umar, Uthman, Ali, Uthman, Ali, Talha, Zubair, Abdul Rahman ibn Auf, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas. The 6th one was Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas. You remember the one who was the conqueror of Persia, the leader of the Muslim armies that went into Persia, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas. These were the 6 that were appointed by Umar. Now, to cut a long story short, immediately when they start the meeting, Abdul Rahman ibn Auf, he's the Sahabi, if you remember, he's the one who was extremely wealthy. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put so much barakah in his wealth, that in his trade, that whenever he would trade, he would just make huge amounts of wealth. And he said it got to the point, Allah put so much barakah in my trade, it got to the point I thought if I just lift up the stone, I'm going to find gold underneath. It would just be like when they came to Medina, when the Muhajirun came to Medina, he was one of the early Muhajir from Mecca. And the Muhajirun, they had no money, so the Prophet ﷺ linked them up with certain people from the Ansar. And they would share with them, their houses, their food, everything. Abdul Rahman ibn Auf was given a partner from the Ansar, and he said to him, have half of my thing. He said, even one of my wife, I will give you one of my wife. I'll divorce her, you can have one of them. Abdul Rahman ibn Auf said, no, I don't want anything. Just show me the way to the marketplace. I can make the money myself. And that's Allah's, And so Abdul Rahman ibn Auf immediately he said, look, from the 6, he said, I'll take myself out of it. If you 5 agree, make me the arbitrator, and I will take myself out of the picture, and I will take the shura, and then I will make a decision on behalf of everyone. So they agreed to that. So you see, once again, he doesn't want power. He said, I'll take myself out of it. And so Abdul Rahman ibn Auf, then he done the shura, he took, opinion of all of them, and opinion of other people around, and eventually he decided on Sayyidina Uthman radiallahu anhu. Now Sayyidina Uthman radiallahu anhu, he had a very long caliphate, 12 years. And during that 12 years, they achieved once again very amazing achievements. And it was a time of great peace and prosperity. Remember, already now the caliphate is the largest superpower in the world. It's much larger than ever the Roman or Persian empires were. So throughout this period, we have great peace and prosperity. Sayyidina Uthman, also there's an further expansion, and these are some of the further lands that come under Islam. So Armenia, Caucasia, Khorasan, Kerman, Sajistan, Cyprus, much of North Africa. So there's still a lot of jihad is still taking place, and there's expansion taking place. Um, Now, towards the second half of his caliphate is when some of the rebellion and some of the civil, some of the internal fighting begins amongst the Muslims themselves. But the first 6 years is very much peaceful time. And what happened after 6 years? The Sayyidina Uthman, radiallahu anhu, he had the ring of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yeah, the ring of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You know the famous, which you see in the famous Muhammad Rasul Allah. Actually, Allah is at the top. Allah, then Rasul, then Muhammad. It's actually Muhammadun Rasulullah. But the Prophet ﷺ didn't want to put his name above Allah's name. So that's why it goes from bottom to top. Muhammad Rasul Allah. This ring was the seal of the Prophet ﷺ. You know, all kings or leaders, they have a seal so that people know that this is from them. So after the Prophet ﷺ, this went to Abu Bakr. And after Abu Bakr, it went to Umar. And after Umar, it's gone to Uthman. So Uthman has got the ring. Now, around about 6 years after he's in his caliphate, he dropped the ring into a well. And he lost the ring. And, you know, they made so many efforts to try to find the ring. The whole well was emptied out completely. And people were searching for that ring, obviously. But despite the best efforts, the ring has never been found. Even to today, the ring has never been found. Now, I'm not going to say what some, I've heard a couple of scholars nowadays saying about Tolkien, Ring of Power, and The Hobbit and things like that, right? That maybe Tolkien got his inspiration from that story, from the Seerah. Allah Alim. Tolkien definitely did know Arabic. It seems he did know Arabic. And, you know, it's always possible, but that's beside the point. So the ring has never been found. And after, you know, so some of the ulama said it was like a symbolic, you know, it was like a sign, like. So after that time, the fitna start within the Muslim ummah, you know, fighting within the Muslims. Now, before Umar died, he actually, one time he called Hudhayfa bin al-Yamam. Hudhayfa bin al-Yamam was one of the Sahabi who was most interested in the alamatu sa'a and things that will happen, you know, things that will happen towards signs of the hour and things that will happen, prophecies. He used to always ask the Prophet ﷺ about those type of things, you know, like Dajjal and Yajuj and Majuj and these type of things. So once Umar, he called him, he said to Hudhayfa, tell me about the fitan. Fitan meaning the tribulations. And Hudhayfa said to him, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, between you and them, between you and the fitan, there's a door. There's a door that can't be, you know, a barrier. And Sayyidina Umar said, will the door be opened or will it be broken? And Hudhayfa said it will be broken. So, and the door was Umar himself. And it was a sign that Umar will be killed. He won't die. He will actually be killed, which he was. So after Sayyidina Umar goes, there's going to be fitan. The Prophet ﷺ has already said that, you know. There will be, the fitan will come. And Sayyidina Umar is that door that was preventing. You know, so now he's gone. So these are some of the major achievements and events during the caliphate of Sayyidina Uthman that we're going to just quickly mention before we go into the sort of rebellion and how he was made shaheed. One of the great things that Sayyidina Uthman done was the standardization of the Quran. So if you remember at the time of Abu Bakr, that was the first time when they brought the Quran together in one book. And Zayd ibn Thabit was given the task of bringing the Quran together in one book. There was a really nice story around that as well, which I didn't have time to tell last time. But when Zayd ibn Thabit was sent to collect the Quran, he went around and he was trying to find the ones that had been written down during the lifetime of the Prophet ﷺ. And for every surah, he wanted to find at least 2 copies, you know, so that we obviously adds that extra certainty that there's no little mistake being made or anything. And because there were still many Sahaba there that had memorized the Quran, Hafaz of Quran, but they were specifically trying to find the written copies that the Prophet ﷺ had ordered to be written during his lifetime. So they collected every surah. He found at least 2 copies for every surah, apart from a couple of ayahs, which I can't recall exactly. I don't know if anyone knows, but there was the end of one of the surahs, a couple of the famous ayahs. He only could find 1 written copy of it. There were many people that had memorized it, so it wasn't an issue like that. But the written copy, he could only find one, no matter how hard they looked. But that 1 copy was with a certain Sahabi. And once again, I don't recall the name of the Sahabi, but this Sahabi, he's the only one who had that copy of that particular couple of ayahs of the Quran. And the amazing thing was, this particular Sahabi, the Prophet ﷺ had said during his lifetime that the shahada of this Sahabi is like 2 shahadas. The witness of this particular Sahabi is equivalent to 2 witnesses. Why? There was an incident that happened where a Jewish man was having a dispute with the Prophet ﷺ. Yeah, it was about some matter of trade. This Jewish man was basically saying that the Prophet ﷺ owes him some money or something. And the Jewish man, in this dispute, I'm sorry I can't remember the details, but the Jewish man in the dispute, he says to the Prophet ﷺ, who's your witness for this, what you're claiming, This is my claim, who's your witness on your side? So this Sahabi stand up and said, I am the witness that, I witnessed that this. But the Prophet ﷺ himself said, but you didn't see this, transaction between me and this Yahud. And, but the Sahabi said, Ya Rasulullah, if you're saying it, then I bear witness to it, So that's when the Prophet ﷺ said, the witness of this is like 2 witnesses. So that was the amazing also miracle that particular ayahs of Quran were only found in a written form with this particular Sahabi. So anyway, so Abu Bakr has collected the Quran. Now, after Abu Bakr, it goes into the guardianship of Hafsa, who is the wife of the Prophet ﷺ, and also the daughter of Sayyidina Umar. So she's looking after guarding this written copy of the Quran. And now, in the time of Sayyidina Uthman, obviously now Islam has spread so far and wide. So there are reports coming back to Medina that, in some of these places, far off places in Persia and these, that they're writing copies of Quran, but they're making mistakes. There's different problems. So Sayyidina Uthman, what he did was he had some copies, written that were correct, and then he had them sent to these different main cities of the Islamic world. And he said, any other copy should be destroyed. Keep these accurate copies of the Quran. So that was what we mean by standardization of the Quran. So this was a great achievement of Sayyidina Uthman in terms of preserving the Quran. Obviously Allah preserves the Quran, but He does it through these means, We mentioned about the military expansion. One of the things that Sayyidina Uthman did, he created the first Muslim navy. As an interesting story that Umar refused to create a navy. Even during the time of Umar, the governor of Sham was Muawiyah. Muawiyah radiallahu anhu is one of the Sahaba, great Sahaba. He was the son of Abu Sufyan. If you remember Abu Sufyan, we mentioned yesterday. And Muawiyah he was the governor of Sham, and he sent letter to Umar to say, look, the Romans, we're trying to fight the Romans. They've got all these ships, in the Mediterranean. We need to start building our own ships so we can fight them in the sea. Sayyidina Umar, he said no. There's story, there was a story that he actually went to the sea and he looked at the sea. When you see the sea, like these people, don't forget they're from desert and they don't really see the sea. But now the Muslims, for the first time, they're seeing the sea, and they were like in shock, awe of these massive. And Sayyidina Umar said, no, I don't want the Muslims to be going, floating around in that dangerous place. But Uthman, he realized, we need to start developing if we're going to fight against the Romans, Otherwise, they will be outmaneuvering us. So he gave the order for Muawiyah to build the first navy, Muslim navy, and they start fighting the Romans. Yeah? Would you put your hand up? If there's any questions, please do ask. Yeah, put your hands up or anything. Sayyidina Uthman you remember even before, even during Islam, he was a great trader himself. He's often known as Uthman Ghani. He was a very wealthy member of Quraysh. Once again, like Abdurrahman ibn Auf, he was given a lot of barakah in his trade and wealth. So he knew about business, and one of the things is very important for any society, any civilization, is to have encouraged trade, because these are the way that people that we generate wealth and affluence amongst the society. So trade is always very important for any civilization, and the Muslims always recognized that. They were always because the Prophet ﷺ himself is a trader. The Prophet ﷺ himself said 8/10 of rizq is through trade. So Muslims always put trading and business at a high, is a great thing to do. You'll be surprised, this is not the case for all civilizations. This is the case similar to the West. The West also are a very trading civilization, but they weren't always in the past. Like Catholic Christianity didn't put trade at a high level as a noble pursuit. In fact, it was looked down upon. And other people also have often looked down upon this trading. Even the Hindus, for example, amongst the Hindu civilization, the trading is seen as not the higher caste. The higher caste, they're not meant to be doing business and trading. Yeah, they're sort of warriors or kings or whatever they are. So it's by no means the case that every civilization have. But the Muslims have always valued and put trade at the highest level. And it's now we know through modern studies of economics, these type of things, economic history, the importance of trade in any civilization to generate affluence and wealth amongst the people. So the Muslims were always, because of from the Sunnah as well. So Sayyidina Uthman made many important developments in infrastructure that is very important for business. What do traders need? They need good infrastructure, good roads. They need security. They need to have places where, on their journeys, they need to have places where they can stop, get food and resources. They need to have good ports where you can send your ships, So Sayyidina Uthman, he's the one who actually opened the port at Jeddah. Jeddah, many of you fly, we fly to Jeddah. Jeddah was just like a village or some unknown place. So Sayyidina Uthman is the one that developed that into a port, because now he wants to encourage the ships that are coming, that are supplying Mecca, Medina. These are now becoming major cities. Yeah, they're the capital cities of the Muslim world. So is a nice story when Sayyidina Uthman, when he went in person himself to scope the area, where can we create this port. And when he came to that region, he went into he walked into the Red Sea, you know, and he didn't lift. He said to them, "Yeah, come, but don't expose your aura." Remember, he was very modest. Sayyidina Uthman was a very modest man, so come into the thing, but don't pull up your izar too much. Anyway, so that was, these type of things were taking place. From the Bayt al-Mal, Sayyidina Uthman, he started giving loans, to people. So these are obviously interest-free loans, what we call today interest-free loans. So encourage people to start up their own businesses, to do their own trading. So a lot of these type of things are very important, for the developing trade and commerce and these type of things. He also expanded the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ, because now obviously so many more people are coming, that the places are growing. So he's the first one really, who expanded the actual masjid of the Prophet ﷺ in Medina. Okay, so great achievements of Sayyidina Uthman. Now we're going to come to how he was very sadly, how he was assassinated and shaheed. And the account that I'm going to use is from Jalaluddin Suyuti, rahimahullah, one of our great scholars, one of our great master of hadith. Jalaluddin Suyuti, I'm sure many of you have heard of him. He's one of the last great masters of hadith of our history. He lived around about, it must be about 500-600 years ago now, around about the 800 mark of Hijri. So he's not a recent, he's one of the great scholars of the past, but amongst our ulama, they say he's one of the last people who is able to do ijtihad in hadith, like give hukam on hadith, which hadith is sahih, which is da'if, which is hasan, etc. Jalaluddin Suyuti, just to give a little bit more of his background, he's got books written in every subject, every Islamic science, ulum al-Quran, to hadith, to etc., etc. And many of his books are like the standard textbooks that are studied in madrasas until today. A lot of his books are the standard texts. He was such a prolific, in intelligence and memory. He himself wrote in his own autobiography, he said, when I was young, when I was memorizing and learning the ulum, he said, I memorized hadith. I memorized 100,000. I memorized 200,000. And there was something around about that much. He said, then I couldn't find any more to memorize. Like he memorized every hadith that he could find. He was a truly great scholar. Now, he has a book called Tarikh al-Khulafa, one of his many books. It's Tarikh al-Khulafa, the history of the Khalifas. So this is the history of all the Khalifas up to his time. So not just Khulafa Rashidun, but even the Umayyad and the Abbasids up to his time. He was on the later Abbasid period, I believe. And so he has, obviously in the beginning, he has got the Khulafa Rashidun section. So it's quite brief. It's just a few pages on each of the Khalifas. So the value of that is, because he's got the vast knowledge of all the sources, when he gives you a small summary of a few pages, it means that this is what he considers to be the most accurate and the most reliable version of what happened. Why do I say version of what happened? Because when we look at these type of events that took place, if you look at the original sources, there are many different descriptions of what happened in these, especially when it comes to these conflicts. And the reason for that is because that's actually normal in any human situation. Like even if you have a battle today in some country, and if you went there and you start asking everyone what happened, you will hear so many different versions depending on that person's, what they've seen, what their viewpoint. There's so many different factors that come in. That's human nature. I mean, there's no way you're going to go and ask 10,000 people what happened in the battle and everyone's going to give exactly the same story, okay? So what did our great historians do? So before Suyuti, just to understand a bit about the sources that we rely upon, before Suyuti, one of our greatest historians and ulama is Sheikh At-Tabari. So At-Tabari, he is one of these. He comes much before Suyuti, so he's around about the 300 Hijri, 350 Hijri mark. At-Tabari is one of a very special scholar in our tradition because he is one of those that gathered a lot of the knowledge and the hadith and the reports from the generations before him. And he done a very, very valuable service to Islam. So the tafsir of Tabari is one of the main tafsir that we rely upon. Yeah? The tafsir of Tabari is, until now, I mean, it's considered the greatest work of tafsir, of the classical tafsir. It's a very huge multi-volume work. And the value of tafsir of Tabari is that for every ayah of Quran, he brings you what was the meaning of that according to the Sahaba and according to the students of Sahaba and according to the students and students of Sahaba. So he will bring many, many narrations. Anyway, so Tabari also has a very famous work on history called Tarikh al-Tabari, yeah, just for shorthand. The actual title is different. But it's commonly known as Tarikh al-Tabari, the history of Tabari. And once again, in this very, very, very large encyclopedic work, At-Tabari, he describes human history from Adam alayhi salam all the way up to his time. And he brings, so for these events that we're talking about here, just for one battle, we're going to talk, for example, we're going to mention the Battle of the Camel. It's known as Waqat al-Jamal, the Battle of the Camel, where Sayyidina Ali is in a battle with other Sahaba. He has devoted several hundred pages to just that battle. And in those several hundred pages, he will bring all the eyewitness reports from every side, So he will bring the eyewitness reports from Sayyidina Ali's side, from the other side. He will bring reports that are weak, and he will bring reports that are stronger as well. Yeah. So what he's doing is collecting. He's collecting, which is very, very valuable. But if you read that, and Alhamdulillah, some people have actually made an English translation of Tabari, which is very unusual for one of our very large works to be translated into English. I mean, the sad thing is it wasn't done by the Muslims. This translation has been done by non-Muslims, Western academics. And it was commissioned by one of these universities. They got funding because they see the value of this work. It's one of the source material of early Islamic history, one of the greatest source of early Islamic history. And they got together a whole team of about 20 plus professors and academics. Some of them were Muslim, just by chance, because they're Muslim. And each of them took one section, juz, and they've translated the whole of Tarikh al-Tabari. So you can't even read it in English now. But if you read that, you will just end up being confused because for us, we don't know which is a stronger report and a weaker report, right? Tabari's put everything there. Now, sometimes, occasionally, Tabari himself will give a comment. After bringing the different reports, he will give his own comment that this is a stronger opinion, of what happened. But sometimes he doesn't. So it's left up to other scholars to study this material, analyze this material, and try to understand what actually happened. Right? So this is why when we read Suyuti, Tarikh al-Khulafa, is very valuable for us. Because Suyuti has given like a summary, a very short summary of what happened. And what that means is obviously he knows of all of these reports and he's studied them and he's come to conclusions about what is actually the reality, most likely reality, but you cannot be 100% sure of these things, of what actually happened during these events. Because some of these events obviously they became very controversial. Especially later on when the Shia Sunni split up, the Shias put their own angle, their own interpretation on these things. And to be fair, some of the Sunnis also become more fanatic and put a bias on their interpretation of things as well. Yeah. But so we need to go to those Sunni scholars that are known to be very fair. And because we don't want fanaticism on either side, because we want to find the haqq. Yeah, so people like Suyuti, they're well known to be very balanced, they're looking for the truth. They're not looking for, I want to prove my side is wrong or I want to prove their side is right or wrong, yeah? Anyway, so there's a little bit of background, but it's important to understand how we, come to these conclusions from the sources. And the other reason why it's important is because you may read other account of what happened that is different to Suyuti's, right? And then you might be confused. How come? Why was Dr. Ridwan telling us this, but we're reading in another book a whole different thing? Yeah, that you will find books. I don't have the slide here right now, but when I teach the longer version of this course, there is an English book on the life of Uthman, quite a big book in English, by an Arab Egyptian writer, Sunni. But when you read about what happened in that book, it's quite different to what is written by Suyuti. Because he's taken another version. In my opinion, he's taken reports that are probably weaker, but because they suit a certain viewpoint, he prefers to use those. That's in my opinion, yeah? He prefers to use, or maybe it fits more in his own understanding of things, yeah? So I prefer to go to someone like Jalaluddin al-Suyuti, who is one of our great scholars that everyone accepts. From any madrasa you go, from the east to the west, from India to Morocco, Jalaluddin Suyuti is known to the ulama and he's well recognized, yeah? So he said, so Suyuti says, look, the problem with what happened with Uthman radiallahu anhu. Now the thing with Sayyidina Uthman, that many of the governors that he was appointing, they were from his family, yeah, Banu Umayyah. The Banu Umayyah is a very noble and powerful clan of the Quraysh, the Banu Umayyah, and they're very closely related to Banu Hashim. From all of the other clans of Quraysh, the Banu Hashim and Banu Umayyah are very closely related. From approximately about 3 generations up, they're related. And so Sayyidina Uthman is from the clan of Banu Umayyah. Now, and Sayyidina Uthman was criticized for this, yeah, by people during his time, by some other Sahaba. And they said, he's putting people from his own family into these positions. But Sayyidina Uthman to be, because remember, in those days, it's different. Governing such a huge caliphate. How can you govern such a huge land? In those days, there's no communication. just to communicate, to another city will take you weeks or months, from Medina to Kufa or Basra or North Africa. You can't rely on, like nowadays. You can run things from the center, right? In those days, you can't run things from Medina in such a vast land. So you have to have people that you know very well and you trust. So this is one of the reasons that Sayyidina Uthman was using people that were close to him, just by the nature of how these things work. However, some of those governors turned out to be unpopular. And Sayyidina Uthman, he would always respond to any complaints or anything like that about his governors. And he would always try to make the peace. Sayyidina Uthman would always try to maintain the peace amongst the Muslims. That was his main concern. So, what happened on this occasion? The Muslims in Egypt, they were not happy with their governor. And the governor was a guy called Abdullah ibn Sarh. And the Muslims, they were not happy with him. For whatever reason, he was not acting in a pious manner, etc. So a group of Muslims, they came from Egypt to Medina to complain about the governor, to Uthman. And this group consisted of, the leader of the group was Muhammad ibn Abu Bakr, Muhammad the son of Abu Bakr, obviously the first Khalifa. When they came to Medina, they basically said to Sayyidina Uthman, look, we're not happy, X, Y, Z reason. Sayyidina Uthman, he listened to their complaints, and as was his usual, he wanted to keep peace, so he said, I will remove that governor, and I will make Muhammad ibn Abu Bakr the governor in his place. So they were happy, and they went heading straight back to Egypt. Now, along the way, when they were on the way back to Egypt, they noticed in the distance another rider coming from Medina, going in the same direction from Medina, and he seemed to be in a great hurry on a camel. So they were a bit suspicious, what's going on? Why is this rushing? So they apprehended this person, and it turned out to be a slave of Uthman on the camel. And they searched the slave, and they found in his possession a letter that was sealed with the seal of the Caliph. This is not the seal of the Prophet. Remember, he's got a new seal now because he lost that ring. But it's sealed with the seal of the Caliph. And they open the letter and they're shocked. What the letter says is, a letter is addressed from Uthman to Abdullah ibn Sarh. And it says to him that this group is going to come to you with Muhammad ibn Abu Bakr, and they're going to say to you this thing, but don't listen to them. You should kill all of them, and you remain in place as the governor. Yeah? They're shocked. They're saying, what? Uthman is just... Immediately they turn back to Medina with the letter, with the slave, with the camel. They go straight to the Masjid al-Nabawi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They gather the Sahaba, the leading Sahaba, Sayyidina Ali, Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas, all of these we mentioned before. Yeah? They gather them. They say, look, we don't know what to make of this. You know what's happened here. Sayyidina Uthman told us to go. But we find the slave, he's got the letter, he's got the seal of the Caliph. The Sahaba, they're shocked as well. The senior Sahaba, they're shocked. One of them, they said, I think it was Abdurrahman bin Auf. No, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas. They said, look, if Uthman has done this, we will remove him. And we'll put aside. This is really bad, if he's done this. It's treachery. Just on a side note, it's also a point of fiqh that a Khalifa can be removed, it shows us. So when someone is appointed as leader, they can be removed if they become unrighteous. Obviously, Uthman didn't do that, but so then they called Sayyidina Uthman to answer, and they put the thing to him, and Sayyidina Uthman denied it. He said he didn't do that. They said to him, "Is this your slave? He said, this is my slave. They said, is this your seal? He said, that's my seal. They said, did you write the letter? He said, I didn't write the letter. Did you dictate that letter? He said, I did not dictate that letter. Did you have any knowledge of that letter? I had no knowledge of this letter. They told him to swear oath by Allah. And he swore oath by Allah. And then they knew that he won't, because they knew. They knew no matter, because they knew each other, these great Sahaba, they knew each other. They knew he wouldn't lie on an oath by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So then they realized that it must have been Marwan. Now Marwan is a relative of Sayyidina Uthman, but he's from Banu Umayyah and he's the one who has the seal. He keeps the seal on behalf of the Khalifa, Marwan. So they said to Uthman, look, give us Marwan, because it's definitely him. It must be him. We need to question him. We need to bring him to trial. Now Marwan at that point has fled into Uthman's house. Or he's basically sought asylum with Sayyidina Uthman. And Sayyidina Uthman refused to hand him over to them. Yeah, Sayyidina Uthman refused to hand him over. So this is the account of Suyuti that I've just described, yeah. Now, obviously, it's once again, we have to keep the best opinion of people like Sayyidina Uthman. This person has got asylum in his house, he's saying, I'm not going to but they said, we want Marwan. So what happened was, Muhammad ibn Abu Bakr and that group, they surrounded the house of Uthman, radiallahu anhu. This is when things start getting nasty, right? They've surrounded his house. And they said, look, we want Marwan. They don't suspect Uthman. They know Uthman has not done anything, radiallahu anhu, because he would never make an oath by Allah on this matter. But they're saying, look, this is a serious matter. All of us could have been killed. Muhammad, the son of Abu Bakr, could have been killed. We want justice. We want Marwan. So they're surrounding the house of Uthman. And Sayyidina Uthman, he refuses to fight them. So remember, Sayyidina Uthman he's from a powerful family, Bani Umayyah. They're coming to Uthman and they're saying, look, we should get rid of these people. They got no right to be surrounding your house and doing these things. This is baghi, this is rebellion. So just give us the order, we'll get rid of them. Sayyidina Uthman said, no. I do not want to be the first. I do not want to be the first Khalifa from the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to shed their blood. Yes, because until that time, Muslim have never fought Muslim. Until that time, there's no Muslim has fought Muslim. He said, I'm not going to be the first one. Then they said to him, okay, if you refuse to fight, let us get you out of here. We'll take you to Makkah. He said, no, they said, we'll take you to Sham. He said, I'm not going to go to Sham. They said, go to Makkah. He said, no, I'm not going to leave the Dar al-Hijrah. Now, this is what Ibn Taymiyyah, one of our other great scholars, said about, saying that Sayyidina Uthman, we know that he was, anyway. Then what happened? The people who are surrounding the house, some of them, Shaitan starts coming in, yeah? Some of them start saying, look, if Uthman is not going to hand over Marwan, we need to kill Uthman. Yeah? Some of these people surrounding the house. And Sayyidina Ali, he heard, that this is what they're talking about now. And so Sayyidina Ali, he said, no, we don't kill Uthman. And he sent his own two sons, Hassan and Hussein. This is according to some reports from our sources. He sent his two sons, Hassan and Hussein, to guard the front door of Uthman. Yeah? And some of the other leading Sahaba like Zubair, Talha, they sent their sons as well. Because this has now reached them that these people that are surrounding the house, they're thinking of actually killing Sayyidina Uthman. So then what happens is basically the situation gets a little bit out of hand. Some of these people that are surrounding the house, they start firing arrows. Now, I believe, and we're going to talk about this in the next section, that these people who started this, they were the same people later on who were in the army of Sayyidina Ali, but they broke away and they started fighting against Ali and Muawiyah. They were called Khawarij, the first Khawarij group. Yeah. So some scholars have said that these same people were that started this fighting here. You know, they start shooting arrows. In some of our sources, it says one of the arrows it scraped the face of Al-Hasan, radiallahu anhu, who's guarding the door. So there was some blood on his face. Now, when Muhammad ibn Abu Bakr, when he sees that Hassan has been wounded, he got two people with him. He said, "Look, if Banu Hashim find out that we've injured the grandson of the Prophet ﷺ, they're going to come down in force, and they're going to get rid of us." So what he said was, he said to two of his people, he said, "Look, we're going to sneak into the house, and we're going to do it now. Before we get, before Banu Hashim find out." So Muhammad ibn Abu Bakr and these two others that we don't know the names of, they sneak into the house of Sayyidina Uthman from the rooftops, and they break into his room where he's sitting, and he's in the room reading Quran, reciting Quran, and the only person in the room is his wife, and they jump in, and Muhammad ibn Abu Bakr grabs him by the beard with a sword, and Sayyidina Uthman looks at him and he says to him, if your father saw you now, you wouldn't please him." The words, they get to Muhammad's heart. They strike him in the heart, and he steps back. Yeah, he lets go and he steps back. Because he's the son of Abu Bakr, remember. But the other two that are with him now, they just come forward and they strike Sayyidina Uthman radiallahu anhu. And he's killed with the Quran, famously killed with the Quran in his hand. And his wife tries to defend him, and some of her fingers are chopped off. So that's how Sayyidina Uthman is shaheed. Now these people then run, and they disperse. When Ali, others, they find out, they're shocked. They're going to like a type of shock. They can't believe what's happened. In some reports it says that Ali came, he comes and he slapped Hassan, and he punches Hussein, says, "How can this happen? How can the Amir al-Mu'mineen be killed when you two are guarding his house?" I've been told by my wife I shouldn't go over in my darses because people don't want to listen to you rambling on and on. People have got other better things to do, so I have to be very strict on time. 5 minutes for question, maybe. So 10 past. So, this is obviously one of the great tragedies in our history that Sayyidina Uthman, who's son-in-law of the Prophet ﷺ, one of the greatest and closest Sahabi, one of the most gentle and peaceful Sahabi as well. He married the daughter of the Prophet ﷺ, and Ruqayya, and when she passed away, the Prophet ﷺ married him to his other daughter, Kulthum. So the ulama said, we don't know of any other person that has married two daughters of a Prophet. That's why he's known as Dhul Nurayn, the one with two lights. Very, very close to the Prophet ﷺ, Anyway, so Sayyidina Ali said, how can he be killed, Amir al-Mu'mineen be killed, while you two are guarding the door. Anyway, so then what happens is, so remember we've got these great Sahaba there, right? Now, after when the news has got around Medina, look, Sayyidina Uthman has been killed. People come to Sayyidina Ali, and they want to take bay'ah with him, as a new leader. Obviously, I mean, I don't need to speak about the precedents and the virtues of Sayyidina Ali. He's well known. He's one of the closest people to the Prophet ﷺ, most beloved people to the Prophet ﷺ. The ulama said, if you look at the virtues of Sahaba in the hadith books, there's nothing really you can compare with Sayyidina Ali, like the amount of virtues about him. But as I said, obviously, anyway, these people come to him. He said, no, this is not your business to make me Amir al-Mu'mineen. This matter is to be decided amongst the senior Sahaba, the people of Badr, as you call it, as he said. What does it mean by people of Badr? It means, obviously, the Sahaba that were in the Badr were the early Sahaba. Yeah? People who became in Islam afterwards, they're not on the same level. Remember, Sayyidina Umar had that Sabiqa system. So the people in Badr, the people who come after, they're not on the same level as people who became Muslim before Badr. So he said, this is not your affair. This is to be decided by the people of Badr, meaning the senior Sahaba, the people who came first into Islam. So then they came and they said to Sayyidina Ali, we want you to be the Khalifa, the new Amir al-Mu'mineen. So then they made bay'ah with him. Now, one of the brother asked me what happened to Marwan. Some of you might be wondering what happened to Marwan. Marwan is fled, he's running, he's going to Syria, to Sham. And he takes with him the shirt of Sayyidina Uthman, the shirt which has got blood on there. And he takes some of the fingers that have been chopped off the wife of Sayyidina Uthman. He takes them with him. And he goes on the fastest possible horse to Sham. Remember, in Sham you've got Muawiyah, who's a great leader of the Shami people from the time of Umar, and he's a governor, but he's from Bani Umayyah. He's from the same clan of Uthman and Marwan. Yeah? And so he goes there. And he rouses them up, the Shami people, that look, the shirt, these are the fingers. So they're going crazy. They're going, what's going on? Uthman is being killed. This is... Now, Ali, he's trying to find out who's killed Sayyidina Uthman. Because obviously these people need to be punished. But the only person they know is Muhammad ibn Abu Bakr was involved. They don't know who the other two people are that actually killed Uthman. So Muhammad ibn Abu Bakr, he admitted, he confessed, yes, I did break into the house. But he said, I didn't actually kill Uthman. At the last minute, I stepped away because he said to me certain words. And Uthman's wife, obviously she's the only witness, she said, yes, it's true. He didn't actually kill Uthman, but he did let them in, the other two. Right? But however, the other two are unknown. And Muhammad ibn Abu Bakr, obviously, he doesn't give the names. Yeah, he doesn't give the names. For whatever reason, I don't know. I'm not a judge, I'm not going into that, right? But all we know is that the other two killers are never found. They're never identified. And the other rest of the group that are surrounding the house, they've dispersed as well around Medina, right? So as I said, we know about the virtues of Sayyidina Ali, and because I'm cutting it short, well, I won't go into this now. There's so many things we can say about the rank of Sayyidina Ali and so on, but I'm sure, hopefully, a lot of you are familiar with that. One of the great things, obviously, that Allah decreed for him, that he was the one who married Sayyidah Fatima, the daughter of the Prophet ﷺ. Remember, two of the daughters were married to Sayyidina Uthman, and the Prophet ﷺ had other daughters, but Fatima, why is she special? Is because her lineage is the only one that came through. Her children are the only ones who have survived through a lineage through generations. So all of the Ahlul Bayt, all of the family of the Prophet ﷺ go back to the children of Fatima, specifically Hassan and Hussein radiallahu anhuma, her two elder sons. When Sayyidah Fatima came of age of marriage, even Abu Bakr, even Umar and others, they asked for her hand in marriage. Because obviously it was such a great honor. But the Prophet ﷺ didn't say yes to them. He just waited. And then one day Ali came. And Ali obviously, but he's obviously a lot younger than, and he was similar age of Fatima. But he was too shy to ask for the hand of marriage. So he came in, he wanted to come to ask for the marriage. But when he came in front of the Prophet ﷺ, he just stood there and didn't speak. And the Prophet ﷺ is looking at him. And the Prophet ﷺ knew why he's come. So he prompted him, maybe you've come to ask for something. And so he prompted it from him that, to ask for the hand of marriage. But Sayyidina Ali said, but I don't have anything to give as mahar. Sayyidina Ali said, I've got nothing to give as mahar. The Prophet ﷺ said, you've got that shield. Why don't you sell the shield? Because the only thing he had was, his shield and his sword. So Sayyidina Ali sold the shield to Uthman. Yeah, and he used the money to pay for the mahar, and he was married to Fatima radiallahu anhuma. And Sayyidina Uthman gave the shield back as a wedding gift to him. The Prophet ﷺ, he then asked Fatima, are you happy to marry Ali? She remained silent. And silence, because amongst young, girls, women, young women, they're very shy sometimes. So if you remain silent, it's considered yes to the marriage. If you say no, then it's considered no, obviously. In Islam, a woman cannot be married without her permission, So you have to ask their permission. And however, in the fiqh, they said if they just remain silent, you can take that as a yes, because they're too shy to say, oh yeah, Dad, I want to marry that guy. Huh? Obviously, that's not the case nowadays in the West. Our daughters who are in the West are completely different, right? They'll be like, no, I'm not. I mean, they can say no, because normally people are not shy to say no. It's shy to say yes. So if they're silent, it means yes. But if they say no, they'll just say no. It's interesting, in the fiqh, they say if they smile or laugh, then it's a yes. Unless they're laughing in a mocking way, then it's like no. Anyway, so Fatima remained silent, and she was married to Sayyidina Ali. And the Prophet ﷺ said to her, I have married you to the dearest of my family to me. Aisha and Salama, they prepared the wedding feast, the two of the wife of the Prophet ﷺ. Yeah. Now, so what happens now? Sayyidina Ali is now become the Khalifa. The people of Medina have taken bay'ah with Sayyidina Ali. However, news has reached Mecca. Two of the highest rank of Sahaba, Talha and Zubair, yeah, Zubair ibn al-Awwam and Talha. Remember, we mentioned them amongst the 6 that were on that panel. So these are literally from the top 10, of the Sahaba. Zubair and Talha, they have gone from Medina to Mecca, and they've told them what happened with Uthman, and that Ali has been chosen as Khalifa. Marwan has fled to Syria and he's told the Shami people this is what's happened with Uthman. Now, in Mecca, there's a lot of anger. Not anger. Obviously, there's a lot of Uthman has been killed, and Sayyidah Aisha is in Mecca, and Sayyidatuna Aisha obviously is one of the Ummahat al-Mu'mineen. The Quran says, "An-Nabi'u أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم النبي أولى بالمؤمنين من أنفسهم وأزواجه أمهاتهم." The Quran says very clearly that the Prophet ﷺ is closer to the believers than their own selves. And his azwaj, his wives, are their mothers. Azwajuhu ummahatuhum. So that's why all of the wives of the Prophet ﷺ are given the title Ummul Mu'mineen, mother of the believers. And in their own lifetime, when this ayah of Quran was revealed, people used to say to them, Ya Ummana, oh our mother. That was because Allah's made them, given them that. They're our mother. So there's absolutely nothing negative we can say about Sayyidah Aisha, because the Quran. But this was once again a difference of opinion. So Sayyidah Aisha, she's concerned that why the people who killed Uthman, why have they not been brought to justice? Yeah. Sayyidah Aisha, they don't have any problem about Ali being the Khalifa. They know Ali, they recognize Ali as a very worthy, if not the most worthy person to be the Khalifa. What the problem they had is, but Uthman, his killers, they haven't been punished. And where are they? We need to bring. So they make a demand from Sayyidina Ali that you need to get the killers. Either you bring them to justice or you hand them over to us, so that they can be brought to justice. And so Sayyidah Aisha, she comes out of Mecca, and with her there's a whole army of people with her, including Zubair, including Talha, and including many other Muslims from Mecca. So they're coming in this army because they want the justice for Sayyidina Uthman. Now when Ali hears about this, he takes his own army out of Medina and going towards Basra. Because what Sayyidina Ali is saying, now this is the difference of the opinion, yeah? Sayyidina Ali, he's saying to them, look, I agree that Uthman killers, they need to be brought to justice, but we don't know their identity. And we are unable to bring them to justice at this current time. However, as I have been elected as the Khalifa, it remains an obligation upon the rest of the Ummah to unite under one leadership. And Sayyidina Ali is absolutely correct. That is Islamic fiqh. That is our Islamic law. That once a Khalifa has been elected or chosen by the notables that are in that position to do so, it then becomes obligatory for other Muslims to also take bay'ah, because uniting under one leader is considered obligatory, in the Sharia. So this is what Sayyidina Ali is saying. Look, I'm not disagreeing, but at the same time, you need to recognize my leadership. Otherwise, there will be fitna. You can't have more than one. You have to have unity of the Ummah. This is the same reason why Abu Bakr agreed to take the leadership, so that they could maintain the unity of the Muslims. Yeah? So maintaining unity is considered in Sharia one of the highest imperatives, above all other things. So this is the issue. Now these armies, they come closer, they meet each other. And with our Sunni sources, we believe that both Ali and Aisha did not want to fight. They didn't want it to come to a battle. But once again, there were certain malicious elements within maybe both sides or within one side that had a most type of extreme approach, you know. And these malicious elements, they were sort of, they wanted to trigger off a conflict, you know. Now, we don't know clearly what happened there. This is like a little bit of conjecture as well. It becomes more clear later on when we have the Battle of Siffin, which we're going to talk about next. This is when that other malicious group actually separate and they become what we call the Khawarij, right? But at this point, these people are they're with the army of Ali. So within the army of Sayyidina Ali, there are some people that are a type of they're a type of mindset that don't give to they don't mind about shedding other Muslim blood. You know, they justify it according to their own justifications. But this is one of their features of the Khawarij, you know, they're always fighting other Muslims. They're always killing other Muslims. So this is what we believe that, you know, Sayyidah Aisha and Ali are trying to come to some sort of agreement, some sort of, you know, some sort of discussion, but the hostilities are triggered off by one group on one side, or maybe one group on either side. They start the conflict, they start the fighting. Once the fighting is started, it goes into a whole full-on battle between the two sides. Sayyidah Aisha is in the battle on the top of a camel, obviously with inside like a hodaj, they call it, like a veil, but she's actually you know, so they can so that's why it's called the Wuqatul Jamal, the battle of the camel, because of Sayyidah Aisha being in the battlefield in a camel. Anyway, Sayyidina Ali's side is victorious in this battle, and very tragically, Zubair and Talha are both killed, shaheed, in this battle. According to the Sunni sources, many of them say that they were actually leaving the battlefield when they were killed, because in the middle of the battle, Sayyidina Ali, he actually sent a messenger to them to remind them of a certain hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ has foretold that at one time you will be coming against Ali in a wrongful stance. So in some of the reports, it said they were reminded of this, and they actually were trying to leave the battlefield when they were tragically killed. So it was Sayyidina Ali. This is when I mentioned earlier, you know, after the battle, he said, on no account do we take any booty, we don't take any prisoners or slaves. Sayyidah Aisha herself was given very honorific treatment by Sayyidina Ali. She was given a full honor, you know, because obviously they recognize each other's, but this is a difference of opinion. So he asked his son Al-Hassan and Muhammad ibn Abu Bakr, because remember, Muhammad ibn Abu Bakr is the brother of Aisha. Aisha is the daughter of Abu Bakr. And Muhammad ibn Abu Bakr is on the side of Ali. So this also shows us this is not, the Sahaba, when they were coming to disagreement, it was not due to any type of family, fanatic, or power, you know, because Muhammad is is a sister of, so they're having a difference of opinion. You know, this is not to do with family. Zubair is a cousin. He's from Ahlul Bayt, but he's on that side. You know, with Sayyidah Aisha. Sayyidah Aisha is, so this is just a difference of opinion, and it's really what it is because the killing of Sayyidina Uthman is a great shock. You know, this is not a small thing that Sayyidina Uthman has been killed like this. So this is why, you know, people are having these differences. So Sayyidah Aisha is given full honor. Muhammad ibn Abu Bakr and Al-Hassan are given the job to escort her back to Medina. And it is said, you know, from our sources that Sayyidah Aisha later on, she regretted this whole incident, you know. And after that, they had very close relationship with Sayyidina Ali and so on. And she, you know, So this is what happened in the Battle of Camel. After this, what happens is that the people of Sham, led by Muawiyah, they also come forth in an army. Now the people of Sham, this is more because, they're from Banu Umayyah. So they have this thing, remember, that Uthman is also Banu Umayyah. We have got a clan, we've got a tribal type of, we've got a duty to seek out his justice for him, for his killing. Now, Sayyidina Muawiyah, remember, he's also a Sahabi. He's a Katib al-Wahi. He's one of those that the Prophet ﷺ entrusted to the writing of the Quran. He's also, and with him there were other Sahaba as well, like Amr ibn al-As and others. So once again, we see this with a great degree of respect as a disagreement between Sahaba. But once again, they came to a clash in the Battle of Siffin. It's called Battle of Siffin because the area was Siffin where they had the battle. And once again, Sayyidina Ali is given victory from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And according to the Sunni, our ulama, they say that, we believe that the Sahaba were all correct on their own opinions, but that Ali was on the correct opinion. Looking back on it, his ijtihad was a correct ijtihad. But anyway, Ali is given victory, and the side of Sayyidina Ali is on the verge of being victorious, and Sayyidina Muawiyah's side is about to lose the battle when they come up with a strategy, a clever strategy to avoid complete defeat. And what they do is that they tell the soldiers, they said, tie up, so they tied pages of Quran on the spears. And they came out to the battle with the Quran tied to the spear. And they said they were asking for a truce, Sayyidina Ali's side were about to get complete victory at that point. So Sayyidina Ali said, no, we don't accept the truce from them because the truce means we're equal. He said, no, we're going to continue until they surrender completely. They need to surrender. So Sayyidina Ali commanded his warriors to continue the fight, but the warriors refused to fight. When they saw the people with they see Muslim with the Quran standing there, they're not going to fight them, so they just stopped fighting. So it became like a stalemate. There was no decisive victory on either side. And then what happened was, Amr ibn al-As, who's a Sahabi, he was an advisor to Muawiyah. And he advised Muawiyah to ask Ali for arbitration. He said, let's stop fighting, let's stop killing Muslims. Let's come to some sort of peaceful negotiation, what they call nowadays negotiations, right? And what they suggested was, let's appoint one person from our side and one person from your side, two trustworthy people, and then we will all go back to our own homes, and we come back after 1 year, and that will give it time for these two people to come to some sort of agreement or negotiated settlement about the matter of the leadership. Yeah, because Muawiyah is not accepting Ali's leadership at this time. So Sayyidina Ali, now he wants to avoid bloodshed amongst the Muslims as much as anyone else, more than anyone else. So even though he's in a much superior position here, he agrees to the arbitration. Yeah. So Sayyidina Muawiyah, he appoints Amr ibn al-As as his person, and Ali appoints Abu Musa al-Ash'ari radiallahu anhu. Abu Musa al-Ash'ari is a very respected and great Sahabi, very pious man. But it also shows the amazing quality of Sayyidina Ali. He didn't choose someone who is partisan to him. Abu Musa al-Ash'ari was known to be very neutral in this matter. He wasn't someone who was very close with Sayyidina Ali, like some others were. So Sayyidina Ali chose him as one of the most pious of the Sahaba. Whereas Muawiyah, Amr ibn al-As was very close to Muawiyah. There's one difference between the two arbitrators. Now at this point is when the Khawarij come about. So there's a group amongst the army of Ali, a group of them, very fierce warriors. They were not happy with the arbitration. Yeah, they said, why is Ali, he's doing this? How can we have this type of arbitration? This is not from the book of Allah. The book of Allah says, "Inna al-hukma illa lillah." That the judgment is only for Allah. Yeah? Judgment is only for Allah. So how can we have judgment by these two people, human beings, right? That was their argument. They felt so strongly about this that they separated from Ali's army and they made a separate camp, in a place called Harura. And so they became known as the Harurites. The very first group of Khawarij were called the Haruriya, because that's where their first military camp was. And basically, Sayyidina Ali, when he heard about their argument, he said, they're using ayah of Quran, but they misinterpreted. He said, Kalimatu haq urida biha batil. They're saying a true word, the ayah of Quran, that the hukam is only for Allah, but they're interpreting it in a false way. Urida biha batil. They're using ayahs of Quran, but giving false interpretations to them, wrong interpretations. So Sayyidina Ali, he actually sent another Sahabi, Abdullah ibn Abbas, to go and debate with them and prove to them from Quran itself and Sunnah that they're giving a completely wrong understanding of Islam. And Abdullah ibn Abbas, anhu, he was actually successful, and quite a few of them actually came back to Sayyidina Ali, but there was about 2/3 of them were staunchly upon their deviant beliefs. And eventually they got to the point where they even said that Sayyidina Ali has become apostate, he's become a kafir. If he doesn't make repentance from what he's doing, it makes him a kafir. And they said that Sayyidina Muawiyah and all those who follow Muawiyah, they're also kafir. So they made takfir of all of the people that were with Sayyidina Ali and all of the people with Sayyidina Muawiyah. They made takfir of all of them. So throughout history, this is one of the defining feature of Khawarij groups, because they come with many different names throughout history. But the main feature of them is one that they rebel against the rightful leader of the Muslims, and secondly that they make takfir of the Muslim leaders and the Muslims. So this was the beginning of the Khawarij group. Now, what happened with the arbitration? It didn't come to a successful conclusion. After 1 year, the two sides came back together. Amr ibn al-As, Abu Musa al-Ashari, Ali, Muawiyah. Some of the other Sahaba that were staying neutral were there as well, like Abdullah ibn Umar. He didn't join either side from the beginning. What happened when some of these fighting started amongst Sahaba, certain Sahaba refused to fight on either side. And they literally broke their swords, because they didn't want, obviously, Muslims shedding blood of Muslim. Abdullah ibn Umar was one of them. Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas was one of them. Remember the great Muslim commander who took Persia? He refused from the beginning, he refused to join either side, of this conflict. So they had come as neutral observers to this arbitration. So what happened was basically, once again, not to give any interpretation of our own or bad opinions of Sahaba, but what happened according to the account of Suyuti and others is that Amr ibn al-As and Abu Musa al-Ashari, they agreed that they will remove, Abu Musa al-Ashari, he agreed to remove Ali as the Amir al-Mu'mineen, and the agreement was that we will remove both of our, and then the Muslims will be able to come to a decision on who they want. So Abu Musa al-Ashari stood up and he said, I remove Ali from the Amir al-Mu'mineen. But when Amr ibn al-As stood up, instead of removing Muawiyah, he said, I affirm Muawiyah as Amir al-Mu'mineen. So this turned out to then be a type of, it turned into a big fitna, because Sayyidina Ali said, what's going on? How can I be removed and people are going to take Muawiyah as Amir al-Mu'mineen? Anyway, the whole thing broke down and no conclusion was reached. However, the both sides did not fight again. So Sayyidina Ali went back to his, Sayyidina Muawiyah went back to Sham. And for the rest of the time, they did not have any further fighting between the Muslim groups. Because it was just, obviously people were just fed up, the Muslim fighting Muslims. And even though Muawiyah never gave bay'ah to Sayyidina Ali, he maintained himself in Sham, but there was still always respect, so Muawiyah would even send messengers to Sayyidina Ali, who was in Kufa, and he would ask him questions of fiqh and things like that because of his knowledge, so however, the Khawarij, they refused to put down the sword. The Khawarij, these Haruriya, they refused to put down the sword, and they started attacking groups of Muslims. So Sayyidina Ali had to fight them, Sayyidina Ali ended up fighting them because they were shedding blood of Muslims and creating a lot of fitna. And Sayyidina Ali was Khalifa for 6 years. So the rest of his time was spent fighting these Khawarij groups. And he managed to crush them in every battle and almost completely defeated them, but some of them survived and trickled on to rise again in future times. And in the end, Sayyidina Ali was actually assassinated, shaheed, by one of these Khariji. Once again, when he was leading the prayer of Fajr, and this assassin jumped out and killed him, radiallahu anhu, and may Allah have mercy on him. So these Khawarij are a very dangerous group until today. Many people don't realize they still exist until today. Inshallah, when we talk further classes, we'll talk a bit more about them. These Khawarij, as we said, now they've become, at the time of Sayyidina Ali is when they become very clearly separated. They separate themselves. And then they make takfir of Ali, Mu'awiyah. Basically, they've made takfir of all Sahaba in a way. Right? And they think they know the deen better than everyone else. They know the deen better than the Sahaba, in other words. So these Khawarij, so these are probably the same people that were surrounding the house of, they were in that group that were surrounding the house of Sayyidina Uthman as well, you see. This is not definite. This is what some scholars believe is very likely. In that very early time, they're often referred to as Al-Qur'a. Yeah, in the Islamic sources, there's a group, they were called Al-Qur'a. Why are they called Al-Qur'a? Because they used to recite the Quran so much. Al-Qur'a is from Qari. They recite the Quran a lot. And this is one of the signs the Prophet ﷺ said in many strong hadith about these people, is that they pray a lot, they fast a lot, they recite a lot of Quran, but they don't have Iman, you know. The Prophet ﷺ said they recite the Quran, but it doesn't go beyond their neck. It doesn't hit the heart, in other words. And the Prophet ﷺ said, if you see their prayer, you will think that your prayer is nothing compared to their prayer. And if you see their fasting, you will think your fasting is nothing compared to their fasting. The amount of fasting they do, nafal fast all the time. Yeah. So this is why it's very easy to become very confused about these people. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ has pointed them out. Sayyidina Ali had their description about them from all of these hadiths. In fact, in one of the battle against them, Sayyidina Ali, he said to his, when they had been defeated, he said to them, go and find this, one of their leaders will be fitting this description. He'll have an amputated arm. And his arm will have a small bit of flesh where it's amputated. Go and find him. And they were looking everywhere for this person, because Sayyidina Ali had got the description from the Prophet ﷺ that these people will fight you and one of their leader will have this amputated arm, right? So his soldiers are looking everywhere amongst the dead bodies. They can't find anyone matching that description. And Sayyidina Ali said, no, look again, you'll find. And eventually they came to like a pile of dead bodies, and at the one at the bottom, they found exactly matching that description, the arm chopped at the elbow with a small bit of flesh, nipple-like protrusion. And they all said, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Because Sayyidina Ali had already been told by the Prophet ﷺ about the fitna of this group, this Khawarij group. The hadith about them are so many in the books of Sahih. You know, there's whole chapters devoted in Bukhari, Muslim, other books, to the point where Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani said it's mutawatir. These hadith, from more than 25 Sahaba we have these hadith, is mutawatir about this particular group, this sect. So they're amongst the most dangerous type of sect in Islam. And I believe, and this people can correct me if I'm wrong, you will not find any similar type of hadith about any other group, any other sect that will come in Islam. Yeah? Think about all these other sects, Shias and Zahiris or Batiniya and all these that we've had. Yeah? Where's all the hadith warning about them? Yeah? All the hadith are there warning about this group. And why is this group so dangerous? Because they're always shedding blood of Muslims. And the way they do that is they make takfir. This is the strange psychology of these people, because outwardly they're so pious, they're so religious. They're very fanatic, like reading Quran all the time. But the strange mindset, I think personally, I've thought about this, for some time. I think it comes through arrogance. Because of their excessive worship, they start thinking they're better than other Muslims, to the point where they start calling other Muslims kafir. They're doing shirk, or they're doing this, they're doing shirk, they're doing kufr. And then because the thing is, when you say someone's a kafir, then their blood becomes halal. They're apostate. So then they take the sword and they start killing Muslims. And this is their pattern throughout Muslim history. Inshallah, we're going to see later as well other examples that whenever this group arises amongst this ummah, this is their same pattern every time. I personally have actually written a book on this subject. That's why I'm probably going on about it a bit. And looked at some of our earliest sources about this group, the Khawarij groups. And this is their repeating pattern, takfir and slaughter. And sometimes if they're in a weak position, they will live amongst the Muslims, but they don't have the power, they don't have the sword, so they can't kill, but they will make takfir, but they'll keep, they're there amongst the Muslims, And when they're given the chance, when they're given the power, then you'll see how they start treating other Muslims that they make takfir of. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq. and hidayah and understanding and respect for the Sahaba. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Happy to take any questions, but yeah, inshallah, sorry for going a little bit over time. Don't tell my wife I went over. Yeah. There is a judicial system fully developed from the time of the Prophet ﷺ. So the Prophet ﷺ was appointing qadis even in his time. So the judicial system is there. There's qadis in every town, every city. Everyone has access to qadi, and this is one of also for me one of the beautiful things about Islam is our judicial system. That it's a free system. Everyone goes to qadi. You don't pay any fees. Nowadays, I mean, the British are famed for their justice, and in some rightly so. They do have that aspect. But nowadays, you want to go to court for some reason. If you're not a rich man, you're probably going to end up bankrupt. So justice shouldn't be based on how much money you have. So there was qadis, and there's famous stories of even Sayyidina Ali being taken to a qadi by a Jewish man. It's very good. I won't go into the story now, but it's a very nice story. And the qadi actually ruled against Sayyidina Ali. Ali was Khalifa at the time. And the Jewish man was so shocked, he actually eventually became Muslim. Because he couldn't actually believe that I've actually taken the Khalifa to court, to a Muslim court, and I've won the case. It was just a trade case. Anyways, so the judicial system is there. At this time, the Khalifa is the authority in religious matters as well. In this time, in the Khulafa Rashidun time. So, however, because remember we're living in a time of there's no communication between vast lands. So if you live in, say, Khorasan, or if you live in the Maghrib in Africa, you're not going to go to the Khalifa in Medina if you have a question on fiqh or any other issue. So you have to go to your local authorities. So that person, whoever's the most knowledgeable person in your local area, you're going to go to them. So in a way, those people are doing ijtihad. If it's a matter that hasn't been found in the Quran or the Hadith, that person is going to have to give an opinion, a fatwa, in other words. Is that what you're hinting at, or? Yeah. Yeah. This is what I was saying earlier about if a ruler is chosen, but then they do something wrong, what happens then? Who brings their ruler to account? So we don't, and I don't believe that Muslims have this type of authoritarian. It might seem that way, and later on it did become that way. With the Abbasids, all these, they were very sort of authoritarian, absolute rulers. But the Khulafa Rashidun are different. They have a concept that even though you're a Khalifa, you are still accountable. And who are you accountable to? Obviously, to the people. And when we say the people, we don't mean in a democracy sense. We mean the shura. Who are the shura? They're the notable companions and other people. So you are accountable. And in fact, that's a good point. It shows us how the wisdom of how you can and you must take the ruler to account. Barakallahu fiqh. But it's a tricky situation, because by its nature it's going to be a tricky situation because he is the absolute authority.
The killers found.
The killers have never been found, and until now, I think people have different discussions about them, and I think some names are floated around as well in books, but no one knows for sure. But there are some conjectures and some names that are given. I think so. I think that's an opinion. We don't know for sure. That's what I'm saying. We don't know for sure. But I suspect strongly, because these are the same people that are in this army with Sayyidina Ali, and then they finally break away. And they come with. So they're extremists. They're like what we call today extremists. They want to just, for some reason, they want to fight and kill Muslims. Yeah.
Sorry. What didn't Abu Bakr radiallahu son not give the names? Did he not know, or he didn't want to just give them?
That like I said, I can't say. I can't say. The books that I've read, they don't mention why, or it's just one of these things. We just have to just keep a good opinion, because at the end of the day, there's no harm in keeping good opinion about people. And either he felt loyalty, or maybe he didn't know their names. I mean, it seems unlikely that he wouldn't know their names personally, but we don't know.
I was just going to say, in regards to the Khawarijis, they obviously they are Muslim, but so where does that kind of place them in the eyes of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala? Like, are they still believers?
Yeah, it's a very good point. So that's what Sayyidina Ali said as well. When one time he was given a khutbah and they start standing up in the masjid and start shouting at him, and accusing him of kufr and all that, and then they were removed. But he said, "Hum ikhwanuna baghaw alayna," because people were asking him, "Who are these? Are they munafiqun?" He said, "They're not munafiqun. They run away from nifaq." They said, "Are they disbelievers?" He said, "They're not disbelievers. Hum ikhwanuna baghaw alayna. They are our brothers. In other words, they're Muslim, but they have rebelled wrongfully against us." So Sayyidina Ali recognized them as Muslim, and so that's generally the Muslims' Sunni point of view is, as long as they don't do something clearly kufr. Like a few extreme group of them do become kafir, but that's just it's like the Shia. Majority of them stay within Islam, but some of them go to extreme, they're out of Islam. Same with the Khawarij, most of them do remain within the umbrella of Islam, but where are they with Allah is a different matter. We can't say, because the hadith are very strong against them. Like Islam leaves them like the arrow leaving the target, going through the target. In other words, that's implying that there's no Iman, there's no Islam. And also the Prophet ﷺ in the Sahih hadith, he said, if I were to come across them, I would destroy them like the Ad people were destroyed. So the hadiths about them are very strong. So we don't know what's their position in front of Allah. And some scholars did say that they are actually kafir. Some, that don't know majority. But if you read the commentary of Ibn Hajar on Bukhari, he gives opinion of several scholars that did believe, because of those hadiths, that the Khawarij are actually they're kafir. But the majority of our scholars kept them within the fold of Islam.